And on the line right now is our good friend Trevor Matich. I mean, he's got a long resume here. I got to get all this in. He is an 8-time Emmy Award winner. He is an elite long snapper. Played for the Washington Redskins. Now an analyst for about Redskin game, and a guy
on Comcast. He looked good last night. He had his smart guy glasses on.
Yeah, I mean,
I always like that.
He's a big, gentle guy, but if he chose to, he could crush either one of us like a bug.
Yep.
Hey, Trevor, how are you?
Well, I'm not nearly as good as I expected to be.
Well, I tell you what, we're all sort of feeling that way, a little hungover after last night. Let me start off by saying, in the first half, they just looked horrible. Let's just be honest about it. How much of that was defense not having any clue as to what the Philadelphia Eagles were going to throw at them, and how much of it was just too much rust?
Yes. Yes, and part of the problem that really exacerbated the defense not knowing what to expect was the way the first 4 series shook out. The very first play of the Redskins season, Alfred Morris, sure-handed usually, fumbles the ball.
Right.
So the defense has to go right back out on the field. The next series, RG3 throws an interception. So the defense has to go right back out on the field. The next series, it's a safety for the Redskins offense. So the defense has to go right back out on the field. Then not too long after that, the defense scores their own touchdown where there was that goofy lateral fumble,
right,
and D'Angelo Hall runs it back. And so the Redskins then kick off again after the defensive touchdown, and the defense has to go right back onto the field.
So they were gasping for air. Yeah,
they were tired right from the very.
Well, and not only that, this offense that the Eagles are putting forward was a really fast-moving offense.
It really was, and the fact that the 2 turnovers, the safety and the defensive touchdown, meant that the Redskins defense did not have the rest that they normally would have had early in that half, and that's one of the reasons that first half went the way it did for them. In the second half, the Redskins defense played much, much better. But in the first half, boy, they were behind the 8 ball from the start, and it really showed.
Trevor, it really did seem like RG3 was out of sync for most of the first half. And can we make a case that maybe he should have taken some snaps in the preseason to get the rhythm and speed right?
Yeah, ideally you would want that, but the problem with that is that physically he wasn't really ready. And it looked like physically he wasn't really ready in this one either. The Eagles' defense did not respect his running ability. They came into this game expecting that he would not run and loading up the box against Alfred Morris at his running, and figured that if RG3 ran the ball and made them account for him like the Redskins had to account for Vic on the other side, then the Eagles defense would adjust. But RG3 clearly not ready to run the ball, not physically 100%, because he never did try to burn them with his legs when they overloaded against Morris.
Trevor Matich is our guest. Of course, he's our Redskins analyst. We're talking about last night's game. And, Trevor, the second half did look a lot better for RG3 and for the team, but how much of that is, the Eagles sort of resting on their heels a little bit because they had almost a 4-touchdown lead?
No, it was more than RG3 shook some of the rust off. In the first half, he was so inaccurate that the receivers had no chance whatsoever to make a play. In the second half, he became slightly less inaccurate. He didn't get better, he got less bad, but that's not necessarily his fault, because having not played a single down in the preseason, the Eagles figured that he would not only be rusty physically, but that he would be rusty mentally, and they were right. And they threw every kind of blitz and coverage and defensive look at him imaginable to make him deal with everything mentally without having had the benefit of seeing it in the preseason, or at least seeing defenses at preseason speed. And so in the first half, the physical part of RG3's game was really rusty. The mental part was even worse.
Damn.
And part of the reason the Redskins came out and scored 20 points in the second half was that RG3 started to see what was happening in front of him a little bit better. So he got better physically, he got better mentally, and I still feel good about this team. I still feel good about RG3, even if he doesn't run around, because they do have a lot of weapons for him to distribute the ball to, as long as he sees where he needs to go with the ball.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. It seems like if they had played throughout this game like they played in the second half, the outcome could have been dramatically different. I mean, it woulda, coulda, shoulda, but it does seem to me that going forward, having knocked off some of the rust, having started to get back into the groove, that things could look pretty good this season still.
Yeah, and I expect that they will. I mean, the Redskins look like an inept, bumbling, awful football team, and they're not. They're just really not. They just came out with the disadvantage of a quarterback that was far, far farther behind the eight ball than we expected. I mean, RG3 was throwing the ball off his back foot in off-balance positions poorly all during the game. He just got better in the second half a little bit. And the thing is, people are saying that because he wasn't driving off of his back foot, that means that he can't be accurate. But that's not true. When you look at how he threw the ball in college and then last year, very often he would just flick the ball out there with his arm. And in the NFL, you have to be able to do that because the defense will not allow you a clean pocket to step into all the time. You have to be able to separate your lower body from your upper body. In other words, when the defense pressures you and makes it so you can't step well into a throw, you've got to be able to still have the right relationship between your shoulders and your arm and the target to be able to flick the ball out there without the benefit of stepping into it. Last year, RG3 did that very, very well. This year, this first game, he did not do that well. But I think that was more a function of not having had to throw under pressure at all until yesterday.
Yeah.
Since he played in the Seattle game, more than the fact that he can't do it.
All right, Trevor Matich, you are Coach Mike Shanahan going into your first practice after this game, and you have to prepare for the Green Bay Packers. What's top on your list to deal with right now?
Top on my list is making sure that RG3 sees pressure, has to throw under pressure. Now they have to get defenders in practice up into his face, because keep this in mind. They had to avoid RG3 making dynamic moves in practice over the course of the summer. In other words, they couldn't confront him with a defender where he would just react by sticking that injured knee into the ground, torquing, spinning, cleats stuck in the ground, pirouetting out of there, bursting out of there, and having that kind of dynamic movement before the knee was ready. Well, he had to do that in this game. The knee was ready, but he hadn't practiced it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So now they need to start to practice that, because that kind of pressure threw him off.
All right. Well, Trevor, always a pleasure, and we'll look forward to talking to you again as we get ready for the next game.
Yeah, things feel bad right now, but they're not as bad as they feel.
All right, silver linings, and we're heading to Green Bay.
I felt better about it toward the end. I mean, clearly I would have liked to have seen a win, but I mean, I felt okay about where we were at the end of the fourth.